Hello and welcome to Season 2 of Getting Pacific, where we continue to get specific on trending topics straight from the newsroom at TaiwanPlus. I'm Joey Chow, and I have a new co-host with me.
Hi, I'm Michelle Chiang.
Hi, Michelle. It's good to have you, and we're going to learn a little bit about you in a sec. But first, let's set the table for today's episode of Getting Pacific. We're going to throw down with the B-boys and B-girls around the world.
Time for Taiwan to bust a move as the country is sending its first breakdancer to the Olympics. Sun Zhen, who goes by the stage name Quake, he competed in the Olympic qualifiers in Budapest over the weekend, coming in 10th place. That ranking helped him secure his spot at the Summer Games in Paris this year. Breaking is a type of dance that emerged from the New York hip-hop scene in the 1980s. It's a new addition to the Olympics, and the debut competition will be on August 10th.
That's right. Taiwan's taking part in the inaugural breakdancing competition at the Olympics. This is the Summer Olympics 2024, which is in session right now as we speak in Paris. And we're going to talk about the history of breaking, how it came to be an Olympic event, and how long Taiwanese B-boys and B-girls have prepared for exactly this moment. But first off, let's get to know our new co-host a bit more. Michelle, where are you from, and are you a breakdancer?
Well, long story short, I'm from Boston in the U.S., and I am, well, this will define me very much. I rolled in extremely low decks when I was born. So that means I am extremely clumsy and absolutely not a breakdancer.
Okay, so you are a tabletop gamer from what I gather.
I am, absolutely. I am definitely a tabletop gamer, and it has been a major part of my life. I own phoenixdice.com, and I'm pretty consistently streaming on Twitch in case anyone wants to watch.
Oh, you know what? Just out of curiosity, how do we follow you on Twitch?
Currently I'm in Phoenix Awaki and Dungeon Scrawlers. So if you type in Dungeon Scrawlers search on Twitch, you'll find me guest starring in their most recent mini campaign.
Oh, that's cool. So basically they take turns to have different groups of people playing games like D&D. That's Dungeons and Dragons. And then you're one of the peoples that do that.
Oh, yes. I guest star because I am really also really bad at technology.
So you wrote low on dexterity and technology. What did you roll high on?
You know, that's a very good question. Constitution, I can eat anything at the night market in any night market around the world, and I'm okay. So I have that at least.
That's very important here in Taiwan, yeah. Okay, so we know that podcasting is a very personal art form, even though it's our jobs to expand on the news stories reported at TaiwanPlus. It's only natural for us to end up exploring topics that match our own proclivities. So my former co-host Trevor is very much interested in science and technology, and we did quite a few episodes on those fronts. I'm guessing we're going to eventually do some tabletop gaming stuff with you?
Oh, absolutely. I love science and, yeah, I guess nature type biology topics, but I actually also host my own show over on Radio Taiwan International called Geek Out, where I am a jack of all trades. I love to talk about all kinds of stuff. So absolutely, we're going to explore a lot more.
Okay, so there's going to be chances for us to geek out a bit with Michelle, but let's continue with today's topic.
Today, we're talking about something that neither of us do as our hobbies, unless you've been secretly practicing your floor works at the underground malls of Taipei Main Station.
No. I rolled very low on dexterity as well, so I'm not a break dancer. And let me explain what Michelle means by that. For years, at least since I moved back to Taiwan in the early 2010s, it's a pretty common sight for Taipei people to see high schoolers at the large empty spaces of transportation hubs like the Taipei Main Station, or tourist hotspots like CKS, that's Chiang Kai-shek Memorial Hall, or Sun Yat-sen Memorial Halls, with boombox as loud as their rebellious attitudes take turns practicing their dance routines in front of large reflective surfaces that could be mirrors or just really any glass panels. Now, obviously, if they had a dance studio, I'm sure they much prefer to go there, as it gets pretty hot here in the summertime. Dancing indoors with air conditioning would be better, but they're probably fighting over the use of these spaces with other extracurricular groups like sports, for example. I've always been quite amazed to see them out there because, first of all, I always thought that Asian kids are, shy, timid, obedient creatures. Turns out, not quite. The younger generations especially have a real tendency for being outspoken and expressive. Secondly, I didn't realize so many were into street dancing since I spent my high school years in Canada. So I asked my wife about the dance culture in Taiwan. As it turns out, almost every high school and university has a dance club.
Yeah, I was surprised at that as well. Like sports, it's an escape from the high-stress education that's really common in most Asian countries. But unlike sports, dancing, especially street dancing, can be quite cathartic for students that wish to express the part of them that's been traditionally silenced in Taiwan's still really conservative and maybe even militant school cultures. But whatever the reason, it seems that this undercurrent of street culture has come to fruition now that Taiwan has athletes competing in the first ever breakdancing event at the Olympics. But it's not the first time Taiwanese b-boys or b-girls have had a chance to shine on the world stage.
This is Ling Li Na, otherwise known as Na Na, and he's Taiwan's latest breakdance champion. He might look like he's been grooving for decades now, but Ling is only in the second grade. Na Na won the under-12 1 vs 1 baby battle at the Battle Pro Series in France, besting competitors from Ukraine and Japan. There's no doubt that Na Na is extremely talented, but when push comes to shove, he works hard too. After all, learning to spend more time on your head than on your feet is something that requires years of practice.
Yep. Taiwanese baby breakdancers have already won championships in France before. And in 2022, the very same Taiwanese adult b-boy who's going to the Paris Olympics ranked 5th at the Asian Games in Hangzhou and almost went to the finals. Those high school students that you saw in the early 2010s, Joey, they've grown up and are ready to win some medals at the Olympics. On the show today, we're going to speak to a Taiwanese b-boy who, like you, grew up in Canada and is currently living in Taiwan, coaching future Taiwanese breakdancing athletes. But first, I think we should give a quick recap on the history of breakdancing or breaking and how it came to be an Olympic event.
Yeah, so breakdancing, mainly popularized by African Americans and Latinos, originated from New York City in the Bronx during the late 60s, early 70s, somewhere around there, incorporated moves from a variety of sources like martial arts, gymnastics. So you've seen them, right? Crazy footwork, backspins, head spins, power moves, down rock, top rock, breakdancing. But it really became an art form when in the Bronx in the early 70s when some DJs noticed that people danced more during the percussive instrumental breaks in songs. And so they devised a way to extend these breaks. That's also when the 2 turntable setup first came to be for these nightclub DJs. So not only are the dance moves largely impromptu, even the DJs who play the music are expected to produce the music on the spot. Now, this includes during the competitions. The emphasis is on energy, movement, creativity, maybe a little humor, and element of danger. It's meant to convey the rough world of the city streets that's in the DNA of this art form. Because let's not forget, the first breakdancers did those crazy aerobatics moves on a piece of cardboard on concrete sidewalks. Now, let's see if Michelle can guess some of these breakdancing lingos thrown around on these concrete sidewalks for some street creds.
Oh no, I'm really bad at quizzes.
No, it's okay. It's like these are terms that no one's going to get. So first off, Michelle, do you care to guess what a cipher is? CYPHER.
I've heard that in terms of code?
Yeah, like cipher to decipher something, right?
Right. But is it like a repeating move, maybe?
Cipher is actually a lot bigger than that. It's the whole act of having a circle that breakers form and then just dance in. So that thing where you kind of gather around to dance, that's called a cipher. So it's kind of front and center of the whole breaking culture.
Oh, that's cool.
There are terms like, a cipher cat, cipher b-boy, or b-girl. Okay, now, how about what do you think a powerhead is?
A powerhead? Okay, so I'm also an aquarium geek, and a powerhead in an aquarium is a pump that moves water to create current, and they can spin. So I don't know, maybe it's that one where they're on their head and they're like spinning. Is that what it is? I'm just like so outing myself as non-dancer.
No, but that was real mechanical. I totally understand what a powerhead in that sense. A powerhead in breaking is just someone who loves to mostly practice and perform power moves in their breaking. It's called power head.
That's cool.
Yeah, opposite to that is footwork cat, and I think that's a lot easier to guess. Someone who loves to, practice their footwork during their breaking.
Oh, this is cute. I love the terminology.
A footwork cat. Okay, so one last term. How about bite? Do you know what a bite or biter or biting is in terms of breaking?
Once again, it kind of pulls up like tech, like how many bytes some file is or whatever. So, oh no, this is terrible. Okay. Oh, I'm so outed as not knowing anything about this. But how about it's like a routine, like a dance move,
Oh, no.
like a sound bite.
Not even close.
dang.
But I love how techie you went with some of these terms. So if a b-boy or b-girl is accused of biting or being a biter, it means that they copied someone's moves. So when you say don't bite, that's actually a pretty severe accusation. It's an unwritten rule in breaking that you don't do that. It's a big no-no.
Wow. So it is kind of like a sound bite where you're recording and copying somebody else's something.
I guess you're right.
I'm not too far off.
Yeah, sure, if you wanted to convince yourself that. Okay, so now that we're familiar with some basic terminology, it's time to find out how did breaking find its way to the Olympics?
Well, if you go to the Olympics main website under breaking, you'll find a brief history on the sport, overview of the rules, and you'll see that the event is produced in association with the World Dance Sport Federation, or WDSF. Formed in the 1950s with members in more than 100 countries now, it's the global governing body for all dance disciplines, from the boogie woogie to the salsa. It was first formally recognized by the International Olympic Committee in 1997, and officials then tried to get ballroom dancing accepted into Summer Games. But of course, that fell through because the IOC, or International Olympics Committee, considered most ballroom dancing more art than competitive sport. 2 years ahead of the 2016 Rio Olympics, breaking was pitched as a potential candidate as the spearhead for dance sport in the Olympics. And the sights were first set on a younger event, the 2018 Summer Youth Olympics in Buenos Aires, since the audience would be much more age appropriate. A 40-point reform document was produced, which highlighted the advantages of such an event, like youth involvement, engagement with communities, reduced cost because it's not expensive to set up a breaking competition, and finally, the magic bullet, which was gender equality. The IOC was sold. 16 B-boys and 16 B-girls would be selected to compete in the first ever Olympic dance sport event. And when it was apparent that breaking turned in bigger social media numbers than any other sport in the 2018 Summer Youth Olympics in Buenos Aires, the rest, as they say, was history.
Yeah. So breaking then found its way into the official Summer Olympics, which is happening right now, where a much older audience is getting ready to spectate on this largely unfamiliar discipline and maybe criticize on it. But we'll find out how it goes. Like Michelle said, many of the people who had experience with the breaking culture in the early 2010s have now grown up and are watching the Olympics Games. We spoke with Jason Huang, aka KrazyBonez, born and raised in Tainan, then moved to Canada for school. His father is a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. Jason also studied pharmaceutical at Seneca College, that's in Ontario, Canada. But when he graduated, he decided to become a professional dancer. Imagine those family holiday dinners, huh?
Oh no, the traditional Asian family dinners.
Yeah.
You quit pharmaceutical science to do what? What now?
Dancing, to be a powerhead. Is that what it is? So we asked Jason about the history and the current state of Taiwan's street dancing.
Taiwan street dance scene started pretty early compared to like many places in the world. Us in Japan, we kind of started around the same era, breaking, like maybe from the 80s, the influence. And then so everybody kind of started to do stuff like the movie, right? But there's like a gap, like, Japan kept going. They kept learning from they inviting people from the US to teach, but like Taiwan kind of stopped. Like we have people still in it, but not like commercially. So it's more like underground. A couple people just kept dancing, but the rest of them, they went to work and everything. The OGs from the hip hop dance or popping, and they say they started around the early 90s, 92, 93. But if you mean really blow up, I think maybe around 2010. More commercial influence from Korea or Japan. They use a lot of street dancing in mainstream. So I think maybe after 2010 it became a little bit more popular than early 2000. I think now it's more choreography. Maybe K-pop is bigger, so less people are in the popping or breaking, locking scene now. But Taiwan is pretty known right now, like popping, breaking. They're like people who's really like internationally known.
So yeah, like Jason said, Taiwan started to get really into breakdancing in the early 80s thanks to a movie about it. And then we took a bit of a break from the 80s to the 90s, and it really blew up again in 2010s when breakdancing, or at least some of the moves, made its way into popular music, either J-pop or K-pop. But he did say that some of the OGs had to, face reality and get back to work, which I think is what a lot of sporting events is facing nowadays, especially here in Taiwan. It's all about whether you have a market and whether there are people to sponsor these events.
That's actually, I didn't know that breaking was much bigger in Japan first, because it seems like a much more conservative society, right?
Yeah, you know what? I guess the more conservative a society, the more you need to just, kind of like let it go a bit.
Right.
So we asked Jason, what is the original spirit, of street dancing? And here's what he said.
Well, I think street dancing is more like individual, like, you have to express your thoughts because you gotta go into the circle or cipher and you gotta be freestyle. You can't do like choreography in a cipher, like because the DJs can't play like music you probably never heard before. Cypher is like, you go to maybe jams or parties and you see like circles with like dancers trying to get down. So we call it cypher. But like from back in the day, it's more like gang related. The OGs like was telling stories from like, the 80s or 90s. Like, if you're not from the crew and you try to step into a cypher and people gotta beat you up and attack you for being disrespectful. But nowadays, like, I think the younger generation, they want to, because they look cool, right? Like, people want to get into like K-pop or the choreography scene. Probably they see the music videos and they think this is really cool and you can attract attention. Well, for me too, like, when I first started, like, I want to get into like street dancing because they look cool, right?
Okay, so there is that word cipher, so it's where you form a circle and get down, as Jason said. And it's pretty crazy to think that originally on the streets of the Bronx, say, if you step into someone else's cipher and you don't know anyone there, you could get your butt handed to you. Imagine, getting beat up for dancing. But I guess that's what the original spirit of breakdancing is kind of like rapping instead of words, but your gestures and your moves to express yourself and to solicit some sort of response, I suppose.
Right. It's the exact opposite of the way that we see, dance crews move today.
Yeah.
The dance community is actually really open and accepting. I mean, if you go out and watch or try to join a dance studio or join a club, they're really friendly about it now. I had no idea it was actually so hardcore back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, dance is so happy and jolly now, but breaking was not like that when it first got started. But interesting that you said that, because then I asked Jason, what is he doing now? As a breaker or a b-boy, he must still hones on his craft, and how do they make money? So I asked him, what's he doing now with his skills developed from dancing?
Right now I'm just teaching and judging, and sometimes I enter contests, international events, different countries. I went to one like recently, was in Switzerland, Geneva. Before that one was maybe 2022. I entered one in Paris. I used to have this walking, dropping class like every week. But I kind of stopped it like recently because like my schedule has been like really weird. Like sometimes I post like, stuff on my Instagram or like dropping class or workshops you can check, or Jason KrazyBonez if they're interested. Before when I started, like my goal used to be like, being number one or like winning competition. But now I feel like more like, I want to be myself like at the moment. Because like, back in the day when I started, like, enter contests or whatever, sometimes you don't feel like yourself and you try to force yourself to do stuff. Like right now, the goal is on the stage or performing or enter battles or teaching. I just want to be the same person like I am when I'm like, like calm and like, just at home dancing, and then put that on the stage.
What's really interesting is that the way Jason puts it sounds so much like these kung fu novels that I used to read when I was a kid. Like when a grandmaster gets to a certain level and he's beat everybody that he's known, won all these competitions, all he or she wants to do now is just to be one with their either martial arts or their art forms and just be able to fully express themselves through this.
Well, I'm glad he's coming to a peace about things and enjoying his life as it is and being a really awesome dancer. That's an amazing journey.
Yeah, it's a level of zen with street dancing. However, the B-boys and B-girls at this year's Summer Olympics are not quite at that level yet. They are still out to compete and to show their stuff to hopefully win a couple of medals for Taiwan. And that about wraps up today's episode. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope we got Pacific enough for you. I am Joey Chou, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Joey Taipei. If you'd like to give us any ideas or share your thoughts, toss us your 2 cents about this show, don't be shy. Feel free to write to joey@gettingpacific.com.
And I'm Michelle Chiang. You can find me, well, if you would like to listen to, just the nerdy conversation, geek out in the form of podcast or over on Radio Taiwan International. Or if you just want to chat, I am Michelle. Search at Phoenix Dice on pretty much any social media. That's where I am.
Okay, and if you like podcasts, check out TaiwanPlus's tech podcast, Innovative Minds, co-hosted by Taiwan's own Minister of Digital Affairs, Audrey Tang, as well as our short series, The Ripple Effect Podcast. We also got more interviews and deep dives into recent news stories in our show Zoom In, Zoom Out, and Connected with Divya Kapalan. And if you want even more news and views from Taiwan and around the world, you can check out the huge catalog of news and entertainment on our website, TaiwanPlus.com, as well as on our YouTube, Instagram, or Twitter. Thank you for listening. Join us next time on Getting Pacific.